Welcome to Let's Talk Franchising, the podcast where we break down everything you need to know to turn your business into a thriving franchise, sell more franchise units, or just become a true franchise expert. I'm Susana Hands, your guide on this journey where we cut through the jargon, share real stories, expert tips, and inside strategies that actually works. Whether you're dreaming about franchising your business, stuck struggling to sell franchises, or simply hungry to learn the secrets of franchise success, you're in the right place. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's episode. Let's talk franchising. Hello, how are you? I'm very well. How have you been with your operation?
Yeah, I'm wearing glasses, but yes, I've still got a bit of a scar on my eyelid, but my other eye's okay. My cornea transplant eye is feeling okay. So,
Oh,
yeah.
glasses on the best of days, so I'd love to take them off if I possibly can.
Oh, goodness. I know. Is that a sign of getting old or what is it?
I have got a feeling I wanted to say that, but you look very young, so I can't say that
Oh,
you.
no, I'm not. I'm not.
Well, I can honestly say every year I feel like my eyesight goes worse and worse and worse, and I embrace it. Glasses are funky, so
Yeah. Well, I looked down, I thought, oh, shit, it's these my nice, like maroon color glasses. I probably could have bought my black ones. Anyway, it is what it is.
Well, thank you very, very much for joining today. And thank you for being a guest on my podcast. I just wanted to make it really, really engaging, entertaining, kind of conversational style. But let's start with we met many, many years ago. So, how did we first meet? I think I know how I met you, but, I want to hear your story.
I actually can't remember the year, but it was probably well before COVID. So probably 2018 or 19. And I was at the What's On for Kids Awards up in the Gold Coast. And I met you because you were supplying these beautiful winners trophies that year. And I got 3 of them. So they are still sitting on our reception desk out there at the moment. So I was lucky enough to, be the recipient of one of your beautiful trophies. And I think we just got talking throughout the conference and the day, and yeah, so that's how I first came across you, and I have been following you on LinkedIn and what have you for ever since, I guess.
Oh, thank you. And I think your dates are a bit out. I think it actually is 2014, 2015, because that was when I owned my own franchise created by Hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well that shows you how long ago we're talking.
I know that shows our age as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it was back then when I sponsored the event. It was my own franchise at that point. I was a franchisor at that point. And then evolving 15 years later, I've done so much. But it's not about me, it's about you. So let's talk about how did you start Ready, Steady, Go Kids?
My journey in Ready Steady is completely fallen out of the sky. So I did not plan this career. My background is commerce law, a master's of tax out of university, got a graduate position at the ATO, and I was working at the ATO in their high wealth division for many, many years, working my way up the ladder. I had children, so took a bit of time off the ATO, and I had 2 boys, and they were just crazy, and I wanted to get some energy out of them. Found Ready Steady Go Kids. It was a fair way away from our house, so we drove there every Saturday morning, 30 minutes away. I ended up calling head office at one point and said, hey, is there any chance that you can bring this closer to me, because this is killing me. I was pregnant with my 3rd child at the time. And they said, no, but we're looking at franchise. Do you know anyone? I said, oh my goodness, my husband would be the best at this job, but he's an electrician, but he's great at sports coaching and all those sorts of things, being captain coach of the local cricket club and footy club for forever. And then the phone rang. It was the franchisor at the time, and we're franchising. You can be our first franchisee. And the next minute, we've bought 2 regions, and we're off on this tangent while I was on maternity leave with my 3rd child.
Love
I
that.
started off as a franchisee. Is basically my journey into Ready Steady. And so
How did you convert from franchisee to now owning it?
Well, I think because I was the first franchisee back in 2011, it was a very new franchise business. So the franchisor at the time and myself and another two franchisees, we were kind of learning the ropes, both franchisee and franchisor roles. And they made it very clear to us right at the start, they were in the business to franchise the business and get out. They were business builders, but they weren't franchise support managers, and they weren't, but they were in it for a certain purpose. So in 2015, by this stage, built myself up to owning 6 regions, and I had my neighboring franchisee helping me out with staffing because I had 4 kids by then. They approached myself and Sherry, my neighboring franchisee, and said, "Do you guys want to buy the business? It seems like you guys are, got the acumen and the education behind you, and we think that the business is in a stage where it needs the nurturing and the support and all that sort of thing that it needs." And we said, absolutely. What a great challenge.
Was it all that it sort of panned out to be? Did it sound glorious? Was it glorious when you first started?
I think for me, having 4 kids really little. So my youngest in 2015 was only 2. He'd only just turned 2, and my kids were 2 years apart. So I had a 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 8-year-old. So they were very young. And the thought of not having to cart equipment around to my coaches and be hands-on as a franchisee and be able to run things in my own hours and in an office, and I think that was very appealing to me, and to be able to be challenged as well, because I think in the ATO I was very challenged. And with franchise, that was very challenging. It was great for the first 4 years, but I felt like, and both my Sherry and I both felt like we needed a little bit of the next step. So it kind of fell into our laps at a perfect time.
And do you find anything that you sort of looked at now and thought, oh, it wasn't what it was cut out to be? Did you ever get to that stage where you thought, what have I done? Why have I done this? Or are you still enjoying it?
Oh, look, I still love it. I think because I love the business, I love the program, I love kids, I love sport, I love the franchisees, I love every single one of them. They are really passionate, and then they're just as passionate about the business as I am. And that helps, having 47 others that are just as passionate about building the brand as you are. I think that makes an absolute difference. But I didn't really get a choice, because at the time I took over, we were already 23 franchisees in. So I couldn't then exactly say, actually, guys, we're not franchisee anymore. We had to keep going. So that's what we did.
And did you ever sign, I mean, this is really bold me asking, but did you ever sign somebody up and go, oh my God, why did I do this to myself? Like usually it's a 10-year tenure with people, and it's like,
Yeah, I think we've all done that.
I love it. Yeah. And the thing is, what do you do? Like, you can't just say to them, look, we really don't click as people, but how do you navigate through that?
I think I've learned the most out of that situation, to be honest, because, you can teach marketing, but you can't really teach mindset and resilience and willingness to follow a system. And reality is, if you're buying into a franchise business, you've bought it so that all that hard work is done for you. You've got your brand awareness, you've got your marketing resources, so that you just have to run your business and get that support. So I think I spend a lot more time now in the initial franchise potential phases to really learn about them and making sure the relationship is right for both sides. And we have such a my biggest asset, and I'll always say this, it's not my IP, it's not my brand awareness. My biggest asset is my network, my franchisees. So I need them to be, to be able to fit into the network and work beautifully with them, because they all work so well together.
I've got this saying that I keep saying to people, I don't sell you a franchise because you've got a wallet and a pulse, but your success is our success. So, you're spot on. They're the number one customer that any franchisor can have is their franchisee, and they should be looking after them. It's important. Now, how do you navigate through that? Like, when you find you've got a franchisee that's kind of, I wouldn't say struggle stream, but probably needing more of your time and energy, how do you sort of spread yourself across all your people? Because you've got so many of them now. How many have you got now? 40?
47 of them, yes. Yeah, and they're all obviously at different stages of their journey. I've got a really good bunch of high-performing franchisees, and they're all around the 15-year mark, and they are excellent. I can just reach out to them and say, hey, is there any chance that you can give this franchisee a call? I'd really benefit out of a phone call and a chat with you. So I actually lean in on the franchisees to help mentor others, and they are so receptive of it. They're always willing to help. But in relation to our franchise support, it is a very structured program, and naturally, the franchisees that have been in the business for under 12 months, they get a lot more support and hand holding and what have you. Yeah, so and if they do need more of my time, I just have to schedule them in for extra support and what have you, and particularly with the cost of living and everyone seems to be struggling at this point. So and it is hard
Mm.
on businesses and it is, affecting everyone's bottom line. So I think reassuring them and giving them that extra, what else can we do to get more members in, or what else can we do to get them in earlier so that your revenue's okay, and just walking through strategies. It's really made me think as well of how I can support them better in a different environment.
And do you find that you start evolving things around, like, oh, maybe we should implement this differently when we onboard somebody next and things like that? Is that something
Yeah,
very important, isn't it?
definitely. I don't think we do franchise intakes every term with school terms, and every term we do a franchise intake of the next potential franchisees, and every training is different because I learned something throughout that term, or I've worked with something on with a franchisee and I've got, I need to put that in the franchisee training. So I'll alter that for the next franchisee training. And so, what used to start off with 3 days has now gone to 5 days, but I feel like they've got much more learning. They learn a lot more in that first 5 day training than the initial franchisees, because I've learnt so much and grown so much. And I'm still learning to this day.
And that's the beauty of it, right? As we grow older, we get more wiser and we implement more learnings, and those people just benefit a lot more. So some people get very scared at the beginning to be that first 5 franchisees. So emerging brands that I work with, it's scary, right? To take on a brand when it's first started and things like that. Any insights that you can give to anyone that's out there kind of starting a franchise from scratch and sort of getting the first 5 on board? What would you kind of recommend or tell them how to do something?
And I think it's a hard one because if you're in your first, you've got your first potential franchisee knocking at your door, and your first instinct is take the money, get someone on board. It doesn't matter how bad they are. We'll work together. And I've only got one franchisee, so I'll put all my effort into, molding them to how I want them, and that doesn't necessarily happen. So I guess the advice is make sure they are the right fit for you. You are going to be working closely with your first 5 franchisees. They are your models, and you're going to develop your whole franchise system based on how they operate and what they need and what systems and structure they need. So make sure they're the right people. And it's a two-way street, that they're willing to, that this is a brand new brand. They're willing to work with you on these systems and processes because you need them to test it at the end of the day.
100%.
Yeah.
As I call them, the trailblazers. What's something that about franchising people don't really talk about?
I think the big buzzword around franchising is be your own boss. Don't work 9 to 5, work your own hours. It's not a passive business. And, yes, you can choose to work around your own hours and what have you, and you don't have to work 9 to 5, but you still need to put in the effort. And I think that is really something. Oh, it's a franchise. You're in a supported system. You've got all your marketing. You've got all your systems. You've got all the booking systems. You just have to go in and write class. How hard can it be? You need to put in the effort at your level as well. You can't just rely on the brand and the national presence and what have you.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing, is that when I work with a lot of people and I say to them, it's like any business. Doesn't matter if it's a franchise or it's, a standard business. You've got to do some hard yakkers in the first 6 to 12 months. If you're not prepared to do that, then maybe it's not the right fit for you. And I like to self-select people out of my process because that makes it easier for me to then have a conversation with genuine people. Do you find that that's a good thing for you? Is that what you do in your sales process?
Yes, definitely. So I get the potential franchisees, and I think we're lucky because we have got franchisees all over Australia other than Northern Territory. So I can say to someone that's interested in, regional Sydney, go and have a look at these classes, go and chat to that franchisee, go and spend some time with them. Because if you can't do what she or he does, then it's not going to be for you. And I'd rather you find that out in your due diligence process, as opposed to coming on board and then thinking, oh, shivers, what have I done? I can't do this. This is not for me. I didn't realize I had to put in this much work.
Absolutely. And it's one of those big things that, if you don't state the obvious, you're pretty much failing them for not telling them the raw truth at the beginning. And I always like to say to people, go and find out the good, the bad, and the ugly from the franchise partners before you join, because if you can handle the challenging stuff that they've experienced, then you'll be able to kind of expecting the worst, but get the best out of it because you sort of expected the worst. So I'm always very big on telling people how they should go and navigate and find that information. Now, tell me something. What's something that broke you, or when you first started at the beginning, what was something that was like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this anymore, or it's like, I'm done.
Oh, nothing that severe that it broke me, but what I did find quite challenging, and it was lucky that I had my business partner, Sherry, at the time, because she was very, business savvy. Whereas I had made quite good friends with the 23 franchisees because I was a franchisee myself. So we were in it together. So I'd made some really good friendships, and I am still friends with these franchisees today. So I really struggled about, then becoming the franchisor and having to say, well, actually, that's not on brand. And actually, that needs to do, you need to do this in your class. And you've posted an incorrect social media post and you've done this. And I felt really terrible, and because I don't like not being liked. And so I really struggled with that it's a business decision, Danie. Now you are the franchisor. You need to, there's a way of delivering the message that it's not, I'm going to ruin the friendship, but the message needs to be delivered. So that was something, and I still struggle with that today, not being liked and, upsetting the apple cart and all that sort of thing. But I think the thing that I've learned is there's a way of delivering the message that it's tactful and it's pleasant and it's not going to cause friction.
Oh, look, I totally can relate to that, because as I was a franchisor, my way of tactfully handling things was probably the biggest learning curve I had. I actually didn't do it very well. And it led to franchisees suing me because they just didn't like my tactfulness of saying to them, you can't do this, or you breached this out of our contract. And I learned over the years that once you kind of tell them, hey, refer to the contract or refer to the franchise agreement, that word should never be raised, in my opinion.
It's scary.
Because it scares them, right? And it's like, oh, Susana, you're just making this all so technical now, as opposed to we're not friends no more. So yeah, I learned that very, very early on. And it was something that had so much difficulty kind of coming to conclusion with that. So well done, Danie, because you've done a better job than what I've done.
Oh, I don't know. Look, I try my best. And I think that the result of that is making sure that the franchisees, again, in their due diligence and when they're coming through as a potential franchisee, please read the franchise agreement. Please understand it. I'm happy to answer questions, but I also want you to take that franchise agreement and seek your own independent advice. And you don't have to just shove the franchise agreement on a solicitor's desk. Highlight the questions that you don't quite understand and get them to explain to you from your perspective what your obligations are and what my obligations are and how that's going to affect you and what you're actually bound to for the next 5 years.
That's a really interesting point you raised. So tell me something. Do most of them go out and get lawyers' advice? Yeah.
Most do. And I am very clear. I don't change my franchise agreement. It's updated every 18 to 2 years according to the franchise code. And I get my franchise lawyer to look over it and we have a conversation whether anything needs to be changed or altered or tweaked. But I'm very clear with potential franchisees. I don't change any clauses. So you need to understand, I've actually got 83 regions. There's 83 franchise agreements out in the network at the moment, and they're all going to say the same thing in relation to your obligations and my obligations.
What do you do when someone goes to a lawyer that's not a franchise lawyer and they come back to you with 30 questions? And one of the questions is, do I have to be open by 9 to 5 or whatever hours it states in the contract? What's your response to that?
I think I just reiterate that we don't change any of the clauses in the contract and just have the conversation about why it's beneficial to be open 9 to 5. That's probably not really a good example for our business because we're sports and we run, 7 mornings and ERC incursions and what have you. Basically explaining why that clause is in, I think really helps because, it can get quite legal and technical. And, if you haven't read a legal contract before, it can be very overwhelming. So trying to take that overwhelming part away from them to say, hey, it's not that bad. All that means is you just need to do this. And this is how franchisees do that. And you want to do that if you're going to make some money and be profitable. So try to explain what it means.
It's funny you say that because when I get them and they come back to me with 30 questions, I'm like, okay, have you read the 30 questions or the 30 points I want you to speak to a franchisor about? And they're like, yeah, no. And I said, why don't you read them and then try and find 3 that is the most stickiest ones out of the whole that you want to have a conversation about. And then I say, but let's just make it clear we don't make any changes, but let's talk about the 3 most stickiest points out of the 30. And then they come back and they go, do you know what, Susana? I actually read all 30 of them and they're really not that bad. And I'm like, have you just realized that you spent, whatever money you spent on that lawyer, and it's just literally, they've just got to justify that,
That's right.
But let's face it, they have to do it. So all good for lawyers doing their jobs and stuff. What about accountants? Have you ever had accountants come back and go, don't do it?
All the time, every single, and we're talking about $26,000 franchises here. It's not going to set the world on fire, but I do understand that $26,000 is a lot of money. So, I understand accountants being cautious, particularly for greenfield sites that don't have financials already. It's not an established business. So you're going off, well, if you get 30 enrollments in this, this venue, and then you're paying coaches and court hire, then you're going to make this amount of money. They're kind of going just off figures that they're plugging into a formula themselves.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and you don't know. So all the time accountants say, oh, it's not worth it to waste $6,000. And then on the opposite scale, I have franchisees that have such high expectations that they're going to earn $100,000 in the first year. And I say to them, so if I was to invest $26,000 in the share market, would you expect to get $100,000 back in your first year? Because if you can, I would like 8 franchises, please, because I'm in. And by pointing that out to them, they kind of sit back and think, oh, yeah, okay, that's pretty unrealistic.
It's so true. But, when people you tell a story around the whole madness, they sort of relate a little bit better. So stories do sell, I say, and I always like to encourage that in sales process, because it does make sense for people to listen and pay attention to a story versus you're trying to tell them something. It doesn't sink.
Yes.
It doesn't think. So one of the things that I always say, have you ever heard of a biggest myth in franchising and you think it needs to die? It needs to go.
Well, it's probably coming back to that be your own boss, work your own hours, not passive income. We've got to, get that out of people's mind that if you're buying a business, it's a business. It's not just something that you can just set and forget. You have to put the hard yards in. And I think a lot of people, or a lot of inquiries that I get, oh, yeah, I'm just going to get my coaches to run it and I'm just going to have it as passive income. Okay, well, that's not quite how it works in any business. You need to be able to learn every facet of the business. You want to know how to local area market. You want to know how to, talk to your communities, train your coaches, learn the program. You want to know all of that. So then you can impart that knowledge on, but you want to learn it first. So I think the thing behind passive income is a big one for me.
Passive income. And I do always like to see marketing people always say, be your own boss and, come, leave your corporate job to work this. It's so much easier. But you know what? Those marketing things have to stop because, as being in the industry for so long, not many people want to go and leave the cycle of being in corporate or the process that they have when they're in corporate jobs. It really isn't like, you've just got to take this on and what motivates that person to come on board. And I think that's the biggest thing is what is exactly that you want to achieve out of owning your own business, and then get them to tell you. That's been my biggest thing as well.
Yeah, it's a really important question in the initial phases, definitely.
And it comes down to marketing, right? So I look at so much marketing collateral out there and I think, why do you always state the obvious? Or, when I say state the obvious, why do you state what every other brand is saying? Why don't you be a little bit out there? I'll give you an example. I met with Joel Jims, and he was there saying to me, Sandy, you know how many brands ask you to send an NDA first before they release any of their information? And I was like, yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? These days people think that sending an NDA and then I'll share all my information is like gone out the window now. Like people want to find out all the information. So leading on to that, do you guys have many kind of marketing videos, any of that sort of tells them everything about what they need to know about a franchisee before they come into learning more about you?
I don't. However, I'm also onto Joel as well. And in the last month or so, I've been honing right into his playbook and all of those sorts of things. And I've started to write little articles about, these are the sorts of hours that our franchisees work. These are the KPIs we run. These are the biggest mistakes my franchisees make in the first 12 months. So I've been trying to build up. I hate podcasts. I hate this is very unfamiliar to me. I hate the look of myself.
So trust me, it's so awkward for me to see myself. And I every time I look at a photo, I'm like, why did I do that facial expression?
Yes. So this is really for me coming out of my comfort zone just to get on this podcast. And when you said it's not going to be, you're not going to be on camera, it's just your voice. I'm going, oh, well, that's half okay, I guess. So yes, I'm building my set of assets up to be able to drip feed that information to potential so that, and of course, that really feeds into the amount of training that you give because if they know all this stuff before coming in, it makes training their initial onboarding so much easier because you're not educating them something for the first time and they're like, oh, well, you didn't tell me I had to work 30 hours a week if I wanted to do all my marketing and my classes. And, you just told me I could work my own hours and I only want to work 5 hours a week. So really getting those topics onto paper. And eventually I want to do some YouTube videos as Joel suggests. I've just got to work out the courage of saying them,
I hear you because I'm a bit like that. And I sort of started doing a lot of, on staging and, videos and, those head talking social media platform things that my daughter keeps asking me to do. And mum, your hair and this and that. I'm like, I don't care.
Yes.
If you if you're talking about my hair, you've got some issues. You've got to listen to what I'm saying. So, but yeah, it's just really interesting. But I've always been in the industry of franchise sales, and that's been my biggest passion and my biggest, my expertise is more so in that space. What I've also found is that there's a lot of people out there generating leads. And they generate quite a lot of leads for a lot of franchisors. But what they don't do is they don't educate that lead to self-select themselves out of that brand. And so one of my biggest things was, why don't you share quite a lot of information that they want to know about your brand before they come to a salesperson and you're wasting that salesperson's time having a conversation, educating them on the lead that on the brand that they've actually inquired in. And what's your theory behind that? Well, how do you find your lead flow?
Look, we've been incredibly lucky that I have not spent up until this financial year, I haven't spent a cent on franchise advertising.
That's fantastic.
So lucky. It's been organically through our website and really, and again, really lucky that there've been mums of kids that have come to our classes. There've been coaches. There've been someone that knows our brand and they've come organically through the website. I know I'm so lucky. Now reading all these stories about how people get leads, I'm so lucky and so thankful. But yeah, but now there's some more franchise regions to sell that, a little bit trickier. So now I'm thinking, okay, let's really qualify these leads, thinking about what Joel's saying and, getting all the information out there so that they've already pre-researched and they know everything about your brand or the top surface level of the brand so that they can then go in depth about, okay, you said that your KPIs for enrollments were 110 per region. What if I don't get that? What does that mean? How do I do that? So they can go into more depth about the article as opposed to, oh, do you have KPIs?
I get that all the time. I'm like, oh my God, you've got in your franchise room, you put KPIs. I'm like, every agreement kind of has a KPI in there and you've sort of got to set a benchmark. Otherwise you're working towards what? Yeah. But it's a really interesting fact that not many people think that that's a thing. And one of the things is that they always challenge me on that part as well. And they always think that it's the lead flow problem. And sometimes it's not just the lead flow problem. Sometimes it's the process that you've built or haven't built in the sales process. So talk about sales process. How do you do all the sales yourself or is it you've got a team?
I do. I have got some girls in the office that help me, and that's mainly just with the initial inquiries. So they will filter out, okay, well, is that region actually for sale? So they'll look up the postcode. If it's already sold, then they'll go back with a message saying, unfortunately, it's sold. Here are the areas that may interest you, just to kind of filter out what's actually available to sell. And then those ones that for sale, they'll get an introductory video, meet Danie, a franchisor, and then they'll go through a nurture process of, hey, here's the biggest mistakes of the franchisees. Hey, this is what sort of hours you'll be working. So a bit of a nurture process each week to kind of feed them that information so that if they can't find it anywhere, that they've got that information, to make their decision of whether they want to proceed to the next step with our information pack.
Love it. And where do you find your biggest roadblock in your process, in your sales process?
I need a better CRM system because at the moment I'm a bit of a control freak. So I like to see every lead that comes in, and I want to say, again, because I'm so precious and protective of my Ready Steady network, I want to kind of see them right, how they're talking, what they've actually put in their description. Why do you want to franchise? I want to know that right from the start. So I'm a little bit of a control freak. So any lead that is available, I do like to kind of guide the girls in what I want to say to them in the return so I can get the right answer to kind of feel them out of whether they're going to be the perfect fit for a franchise system. So it's a very manual process, and that's another thing that I am working on a
Well, we
CRM.
can definitely help you with that because we built of those. So definitely let's have a conversation about that. But if you actually, and I'm big on systems because I've worked with companies, I won't mention names, but I've worked with companies where we used to still do everything manually. And I used to carry a folder, and every day I used to have my leads that I had to call them. And guess what happened with that folder when I had to travel?
Oh, you lost it.
I lost it. So guess
Yeah.
what? I lost all my leads that I was
Yeah.
working. So it was not great. And I kept asking them, can you please, please, please put it onto some digital system so I don't have to carry this massive folder with me every time? And yeah, of course. And women like to pack a lot of stuff. So that thing carried a lot of weight, which then I couldn't take a pair of shoes with me. So it was pretty
Priorities.
my priorities. But yeah, that was a big learning curve. And it's surprising you're not alone. There's so many brands out there that still do things manually. And it's great, but gets to the point where, and I know this for firsthand experiences, when I got sued, my biggest problem was, well, it wasn't a problem, it was actually a good fact, is that I had a system that could record every single call that I'd made, every
Yeah.
conversation, stamped date, verified, and I couldn't go back and change it. So
Yeah.
that was one of my biggest things that got me out of trouble when this lady decided to sue me and go all the way through to court. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, but I've done everything right. And that's been my biggest stickler for systems, processes, and making sure everything that I said has been documented. That got me out of
It is.
trouble. So these days I'm very big on, you say something, you have a conversation, please put it into that note system and it's there.
Yes.
When you go back, you can actually see that. So yeah, let's
Yeah.
have a chat because it definitely
Yeah.
give you some pointers around that. But if you had to start all over again tomorrow, what would you do differently first?
I think I'd invest in the systems and the technology earlier. So we've got a super duper awesome website at the moment. It's only 3 years old though, and I've been in the franchise all for 11 years now. So it did take me a while to get to that point where I said, I need a new system. So the website now is very user friendly from a member's perspective. They can book their own makeup classes, their own trials, they can cancel their own trials, they can move, they can pay, they can do all sorts of fandangle things, which is, freed up a lot of time for the girls in the contact center to be able to help me and support me in other areas of the business. But also on the back end of that website is a franchisee portal. So the franchisees can log in and they can see their class lists. They can print them out. They can look at their trial conversions. They can look at who came through as trials. They can mark attendances. They can run KPI reports. So it's a very sophisticated system on the website that really, they've got a dashboard with a graph and all those sorts of things that really help them with their KPIs and how they're tracking to be able to then compare themselves to how was I tracking this time last year and this time last term. So I think that has been very helpful and has also relieved a lot of pressure from my support system also because they can see that information in front of them. So I think doing that earlier, invest in your systems and your technology and getting a system that's going to support you right from the start would be one thing I would definitely change.
It's interesting you say that because that's another thing that I got caught out with my system as well. So I had 10 franchisees and then I decided to change my website. And guess what happened? Everyone was like, I don't want this. This is not what I want to do. I don't want to learn another system. And it just became a massive array of problems. So I totally agree with you. Start early on your systems. Have you build your foundations correctly from the beginning? Because once you start changing it and franchisees are there, they don't like to get on that journey. Did you find that they were okay with when you built that? How did you sell it to them?
Oh, look, I think it also There was benefits for the franchisee as well because it saved them a lot of time because members were very much left. They could book on 7 o'clock at night. They didn't have to wait till the office is open the next day to be able to help them with their booking or book in a makeup class or what have you. So it did save the franchisees a lot of time from their member perspective and also from their portals so they could see a lot more things. So they were excited to jump on board. As all websites do, it had a bit of issues and teething and bugs and what have you the first couple of months, but I think I always look to increase and keep up with the times. And, he's doing some AI stuff at the moment. So how can we incorporate that into just keeping up with the times and technology? And I think we just need to be up to date.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you think are the personal attributes that makes a successful franchisor?
I don't know from anyone else's perspective, but I think what has given me the heads up is that I've been a franchisee. That is definitely my number one benefit. I don't know whether I could have done it just coming in straight as a franchisor. Being a franchisee for those 4 years, I really could understand what it's like to build a franchisee from scratch. Hire your first coaches, do the marketing, talk to your mums out in the community, get your car decals done. I know their pain points. And that gave me such a benefit to be able to step into this role because I understood where they're coming from and what they needed to do to put food on the kids' table and pay for their school education and live and all those sorts of things. So I think being there was definitely a help.
It makes much of a difference. I know because when I first started, I sat on the other side of the fence as a franchisee. Then I sat on the franchisor's perspective. Then I sat as a consultant advisor. And then I worked for a massive organization like a US company. So I was able to sit into all different parts and see it from a different point of view, which makes you appreciate when someone comes to you as a franchisee and says, I've got a bit of a problem. Can you listen to me or can you help me out? Because I have already been in that position and I would not have wanted somebody to, and I had that as a franchisee. I didn't have my franchisor listening to what I had to say. So as most franchisees think is that if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to fly under the radar and do my damn thing. And that's when they go off and do things.
Correct.
So it's really and I'm very big on making people educated around that space is if you're not coming from that angle, you've never sat on the other side of the fence like yourself have, which makes you very, very different and very approachable kind of person. You got to learn that aspect.
Yes.
Be able to relate to people. And that's been a big thing for many franchisors. They can't do that. And
that would be super hard to learn. Because
it's a hard thing.
It would be super hard.
It is. And you think about it, like it's not like some franchisors out there, they do themselves their own injustice because what they do is they just sit there and they think it's either my way or the highway. And if you don't like it, bad luck. It's not like that because like you said, your franchisees are got to be your first priority. They are the ones that are expanding your brand, your presence, making money, paying their bills, royalties and etc. Like you've got to make sure that you make them feel valuable at every aspect. And that's been my biggest thing for many years. But yeah, so it's great you've actually confirmed that.
Yes. And there's a fine line too, isn't it? Because then if you open up the floor and get 47 different opinions, then there's never going to be, a consensus. So there's a fine line of getting input and then making the decision that's the benefit of the whole network, because obviously franchisees are thinking locally and they're thinking what benefits them and assuming that it's going to benefit every franchisee, not realizing, putting the franchisor hat, you all come from different backgrounds, you all come from different regions, you all come from different socioeconomics. Not one thing is going to apply to everyone. It's not a one shot fits all. So to be able to put that franchisor hat on, so that might be great for Sydney, but it's not going to be great for Tassie, or just really leveling it out to think on behalf of the network as opposed to individually.
Absolutely agree with you. Tell me something with regards to your feedback. I mean, do you guys survey your franchisees on a regular basis? Do you get them to give you feedback? How do you improve things in your system?
Yeah, look, we've got a franchise advisory council, so that is helpful. So our franchisees are able to feed through their suggestions of improvement or what have you through the FAC, and that then we meet once a quarter to talk about those issues and how we can solve them, or is it an issue, or can we solve it, or how can we solve it together. And then they are also, I don't think they did it last year actually, that reminds me, they normally, after their annual conference, it normally is in July, they survey the franchisees saying how was the annual conference to start with, but then how was your overall year been in relation to support, marketing, all those sorts of things. So yes, we do. But I think because I speak to every franchisee personally and I'm the head of the support program, I want to create that relationship that it's not just your half an hour per month or per week or whatever your franchise support outlines for you. I want you to be able to pick up the phone, or I want you to be able to email me at any point, even if it's a ridiculously silly question that you think that's really silly. It's okay. It's probably been asked before and it'll take me 5 seconds to answer you. So I'd rather you answer the question than try and nut it out, or go and reach out to the network. Our network is so good. They've all got their own WhatsApp groups on there for each state, and just throw it in that WhatsApp group. They don't think it's silly either. Just nut it out. Whether you ask me or you ask your fellow franchisees, make sure you find out the answer.
Absolutely. It's one of the big things that most people don't tend to pick up a phone and call anybody anymore. They sit behind a, keyboard warriors, put in all these emails, and then they misconstrued the way it's been written out. And
Yes.
that's where all the problems start. So I'm very big on making phone calls, very traditional in that sense.
Yes.
Probably shows our age, doesn't it? That we still like to get on
And
phone.
it saves you arthritis in your fingers, right? So it's so much easier.
Sure does. Now, how do you encourage? I mean, I've got brands out there that don't really do much conferences. And how do you encourage everyone to come to your conference? And once you're in the conferencing, do you find that it's add value to them and they enjoy going to those?
Yes, I think for if you've been to one of our conferences, you'll go all the time. You'll come every year.
I
One
want to go to yours. So never
Yeah.
come in white.
One of the big challenges I have is that their first initial franchisees, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time out of the business, away from your family. Getting them to come to that first conference. Once they're and because it's overwhelming, there's 47 other people. Once you've been to the first one and you've met people in person and you've heard other people's stories, we make it I make the annual conference a lot of time for franchise stories. So I get a lot of franchisees to present. It might be just their journey. It might be something that they're really good at or they've found really, I don't want to be the MC the whole time. I want franchisees to hear from other franchisees. I think once you've been to a conference, it's the highlight of their year. And that's how I want it to be. I want them to be able to get into a room and really brainstorm and pick each other's brains and grow from there. We all go back with a big buzz after the annual conference.
I love it. I've been to a few and it's really entertaining how they do it. And you're spot on. Like once you meet other franchisees, it becomes like a big family.
Yes.
Then you enjoy the next ones and the next ones and hey, let's do this and let's do that. But it's really sad that some brands don't emphasize how important it is to get the whole group together, or the franchisees don't find the value of getting the whole team together as well. In saying that, what's your way of getting everybody there? Like, do you just add it into your agreement that you charge them a percentage or a certain amount every month, or how do you make it not mandatory, but how do you sort of get it to happen?
Well, it is in our franchise agreement that it is compulsory, but they do get charged. They get charged the conference fee whether they attend or not. So they do that. I do give them the option to be able to pay it off monthly if they want to do that. But I think, again, once you've been, you always want to go. So they put aside that money. And I try and rotate it in states. Obviously, our biggest states are Victoria and New South Wales. So the less franchisees need to travel if I have it in Melbourne or Sydney. Sydney's hugely expensive. So, we try not to have too many in Sydney. The last year we had ours in the Gold Coast and it was phenomenal. Everyone was in a great mood because it was sunshine and, it was just a great place to be. It had a great atmosphere, a great buzz. And I think that really set the tone. And we're back in boring Melbourne now and everyone hates it because it's going to be cold.
When's your next one? When are you running the next conference?
In July. It's normally in July in the school holidays. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy that conference. I think it really does make a big, big difference to a lot of people. And you're spot on. It's just trying to give back to something that, they have invested so much energy, time and money into, their business. And it's like, this is your opportunity to kind of shine amongst your peers. So well done for executing that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. I think I love it as much as they do.
I enjoy them. And it's because I love speaking to people. So anywhere that you get me in a room full of people, that's where I shine as well.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's your goals and what's your growth plans for the next 12 months?
Oh, very good question. I feel like our demographics and I think I'm heading into AI in the fact that, we get a lot of for our social media and digital marketing and what have you. We rely on class photos and class videos. And because they need to be of 1.5 to 6 year olds, there's a lot of parents that are very very cautious of having their children on social media anymore. So that's becoming harder. I'm finding there's a lot more parents and members opting out of being photographed and videoed in class. So really trying to work out, and I think I've nailed the photos with AI and just creating fake kids in our classes. And I haven't quite nailed the videos yet, but I feel like that's where I need to be, because it's going to get more and more harder, more difficult to get footage of our classes. And that's our big selling point. That's where people want to see our classes and what they're going to bring their children to before they actually sign up and enroll.
Yeah, that's a big point. And it's a privacy, cybersecurity. There's so
Safe. It's a really difficult industry to be doing the right thing legally and, trying to promote your business and looking after parents and absolutely their privacy of the children. I get it. I'm a mum too. I 100% understand where they're coming from.
Totally. So I respect that too. Now tell me, are you planning on doing anything overseas, internationally expansion?
Yeah, look, we are in 23 countries overseas already. Sherry and I had the international arm of the business also. We sold that in 2018 to Brant Kelly, who was the founder of Kelly Sports. So the international brand is in absolutely amazing hands with Brant, and he's got the capacity to be able to travel and meet the master franchisees and all those sort of things. So, and he's continuing the brand overseas and selling other countries. And yeah, so
You guys have done such an amazing job since I met you. Well done.
It's hard enough, managing Australia without trying to manage other countries. So we felt like, to do a good job in Australia, we needed to get rid of the rest of the world.
Look, you know what? I take my hat off because you've got kids yourself. You're a mum. You're trying to run a business. And fact, I got sued because a lady said to me, you're a mum and no mum can run any franchise business. And that's the reason why I got sued. So I listened to stories from yourself and other very powerful women that have done it. And I just think, what the hell were you thinking when you took me to court because of that? So it was a very silly claim. And I can talk about this now because it's been so long ago, but her husband just had it in for strong, powerful women in business. And unfortunately, the world has evolved since back then.
Thank goodness.
Yes. And there's a lot more powerful women out there doing amazing work, just like yourself. And I'm very, very blessed to have you on my podcast today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It was so fun. It was so much fun.
Oh, look, you know what? Let's do it again, and we can really talk about other topics and so forth. But yeah, please, let's off topic. Let's have a chat. I can definitely help you with our team that can help you with the program, the CRM system, video content, and all that. We've got a big team that does all of those things for all of our clients. So I can definitely put you in contact and get that all streamlined through us if you like.
Thank you. Awesome. Definitely worth it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So anyway, I'll conclude this, but thank you so much for your time. I appreciate today's podcast interview, and keep up the good work. I love hearing and seeing everything about you guys. So well done.
Thank you so much.
And take care. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Let's Talk Franchising. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, diving into franchising with me. If you've got something valuable out of this, do me a favor, hit subscribe, leave a review, and or share with anyone who you feel could do really well with listening to this. Got any questions or ideas for future episodes? Send them my way. I'd love hearing from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and of course, keep talking franchising.